Atrial hypertrophy. The atrial hypertrophy can be diagnosed from the contour of the P waves seen best in lead 2. The P wave represents depolarization of both right and left atria. The SA node starts the depolarization in right atrium. So the initial part is contributed by the right atrium and the later part of the P wave shaded in the diagram is contributed by the left atrium. In left atrial hypertrophy, the second component is delayed and prominent. So we get a wide and notched P wave which is wider than 2.5 small squares. Since this is common in mitral valve diseases, it is termed as P mitrale. Note the P mitrale notched and 3.5 small squares wide. Width more than 2.5 squares is the main criterion. This is another P mitrale, not notched but 3 small squares wide. In right atrial hypertrophy, the initial component is prominent. So the P wave is tall and peaked in lead 2, which is taller than 2.5 small squares. Since this is common with pulmonary hypertension, it is termed as P pulmonale. This is a very prominent P pulmonale, 5 small squares tall. It suggests right atrial hypertrophy. In this ECG, the lead 2 shows tall and peaked P wave, which is 3 small squares tall. This is P pulmonale, suggesting right atrial hypertrophy. This ECG shows tall and peaked P waves in 2, 3 and AVF, typical P pulmonale. This is P mitrale, no notch but 2.5 small squares wide, suggesting left atrial hypertrophy. If both the atria are hypertrophied, the P wave in lead 2 will be taller than 2.5 small squares and broader than 2.5 small squares. This is an ECG of biatrial hypertrophy.